So on today's video I'm going to talk about shrubs that I have in my garden here at Grassy Bottom, and there's loads and loads of shrubs that are very good for gardens, some large ones and small ones alike. I have a mixture of different types of shrubs, and you can actually have something like a holly tree at the back, which is that big one there, and you can actually turn that into a shrub by keeping its size down. So clipping it can turn a tree into a shrub, and vice versa. You can have a large shrub that you can make look like a tree. But I'm going to show you the ones that I've got in here. Now, I love Viburnums. The only downside to Viburnums is, or with some of them, is that they're affected by the Viburnum beetle. If you do suffer with this, you need to spray in spring and keep spraying until you've got rid of the problem, to be honest. And there's no way around it, to be honest. If it's heavily affected and you don't want to spray, then just simply choose a different type of shrub. But I love Viburnums. Now, this is Viburnum Woodii, and it's Park Farm hybrid, and it has a lovely scent to it. And it's not evergreen; it will lose its leaves, and it's a beauty, absolute beauty. It smells absolutely gorgeous when it's going in scent, and it's nice. Now it'll make about 5 or 6 foot. This isn't its final destination here. This is going to be moved at some point in favour of something else, because this area is under redevelopment, so we'll move that. Now Catinus is a great shrubs, and this one's called Young Lady, and they get to about, I think I've seen one at about 3 foot, but they don't get much bigger than that. But what they do is they produce this wonderful colour, this orange colour in autumn, and it's now starting to draw back its chlorophyll, and it's going to show you these wonderful oranges, and so that's a real nice one. So if you're looking for something a little bit smaller and interesting in autumn, that's the one I recommend that you go for. I've got this planted now. I did keep it in a pot for many years. A friend of mine keeps it in a pot, and hers is up to about 2.5, 3 foot in the pot, and it looks great every year. So that's a good one for that. Now while we're here, let's talk about Buxus sempervirens. Again, makes a nice shrub. You can do it individually. I've got several here. I've got them clipped. They make good shrubs in the garden. So, as I said, I like Viburnums. And here I've got 3 lovely ones. These are Viburnum Davidii, and I absolutely love these. These are evergreen, and they always look good. Unfortunately, they don't have really much of a scent. They have a good looking leaf on them though, which is really, really nice, and I really like them. The advantage in these things is that these ones will grow under trees. You've got to get them established. You need to water them heavily when you first plant them, and keep watering them until you can see that they're establishing. That's a bit of a downside, but it's one worth sacrificing your time for. So, Viburnum Davidii. So this one's a Philadelphus called Belle Étoile. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it's again, it's a heavily scented shrub that's really causing me more problems than I need in this area. But I'm going to work on it over the coming years, and I have been working on it to get its structure right, and there's still a lot of work to do. Shrubs always respond well to pruning, but you've got to bear in mind, if it's a flowering one and you bought it for its flower and its scent, then you need to prune it at the right time. Simple as that. If you don't, then you're going to sacrifice the flowers and the scent that some of them produce. And this one does produce a lovely one. Now, Kathy likes this one because it reminds her of her grandmother, the scent it gives off. So maybe something to do with the perfume that grandmother wore, I don't know. I don't know if that's insulting or not. But anyway, that's a really nice one to have. So that's a Philadelphus, and commonly called mock orange. I don't know why, because it smells nothing like orange to me. But there you go. So, okay, over here. So Acers make great shrubs. At the minute, they're dropping the leaves. This one's called Trompenborg, and it's a relatively young plant, and I've moved it a couple of times, so it's my fault it's not got bigger. But it'll be fine. I like to move it, and as I said, I like change, and I like to move things to where they're going to do better. So Trompenborg is a particularly good one, as is another one I'll show you in a moment. I'll not name it yet. I'll show you that one in a moment. But all Acers have cracking colours, absolutely cracking colours. So, you know, in autumn. And that's about what they're doing at the minute. Because I've moved this one, it hasn't got as many leaves as it should have, but it's producing some nice colours, but it is that colour anyway, but it produces them better, so it would go to an orangey colour as it takes back the chlorophylls in the leaf itself. Now this one here is Hydrangea quikifolia, or the oak-leaved hydrangea, and I've got a couple of these. This is the ordinary one, just produces this white flower. It likes shade, but does really well, and it does have a lovely autumn colour as well. I'm trying to think what colour it does. I think it's tones of red and orange that this one goes, but again, it got moved at the beginning of the year, so it's not fully settled in, to be quite honest. But it's a lovely shrub if you've got like a woody area on the side of the wood. That would do well, because it does need a bit of moisture. You know, it's called hydrangea because of the hydra bit, so it does require some moisture. But if you're in a garden situation, that's easy to rectify. If you've got a wood that's quite wild, put it on the side, on the west side, where it gets lots of the rains, and that would solve that problem. So viburnums, I said I like viburnums, and here's one called ritidiphyllum. This one can make 15 foot. I've seen this one in full flower. It's producing its flowers again. They're actually a bit late. And the reason being that I've clipped this back and I've planted it here at a funny time of the year, but it's doing all right. Now you can heavily clip that and it'll thicken up and do really, really well. So that one does well up here at Grassy Bottom, that viburnum, ritidiphyllum. And it's one of the hardier viburnums in my opinion. It's really nice. And again, just waiting for time till it gets a more mature specimen. Now again, viburnum. I do love viburnums. So we'll sit down here for this one. Now this one's called Viburnum cinnamomifolium, and it's the first time I've ever had this one, and I've seen mature specimens of this one, and they can make about 8 foot, I think, this particular one. So the Davidii that I showed you earlier, if you just think about that one again, and this is very similar, very similar leaf, but it's like it's on steroids. So it's a bigger version of Davidii, and I like both, to be honest. So that's a really, really nice one, and probably going to prove to be one of my favourites. Okay, so there's Perottia Japonica there, which is strictly a tree, I guess. In England, it's kept smaller because it likes a bit warmer environment, really, than most of us can give it. But I've had this in the garden for the last 2 years and it's doing fine. I have to water it heavily in summer, but it does all right. And if you keep clipping it back, it will turn into a shrub, but it's almost a shrub by its very nature in England because it doesn't get that big. So it's doing all right. Quite happy with that one. So, Laniceras, which is the shrubby Nonisocals. This is the Lanicera Bagenson's Gold. It's got to be that one. It was already here when I came here, and I've been clipping it back and I've been working on it to try and improve this area and to improve the plant itself, and it does well being clipped back. So that's good. The only downfall to it is it grows really quickly, and if you don't trim it as it's getting taller and taller, it will tend to flop. But if you need to cut it back to the ground, you can cut it right back to nothing and it'll respond really well. So it makes a great edge. Well worth having that one. So this is another Katina, and it's Cogagria, and it's I think it's royal purple. It was here when I came. I've had to do lots of work on this particular one. Hell of a lot of work on it because it was so big, and these things can get big, and the failing of that is that they splay in the centre and crack and break themselves. So you've got to do a little bit of work on these, but they're well worth working on. Now there's a lot of green in this one at the moment because I've been clipping it back at a funny time of the year, but basically they stay this colour as soon as they come up, really, but the new growth tends to be a little bit greener. Now as autumn comes again, this will have the most stunning colours in it. It has some wacky, for some reason it tends to do that on the leaf on some of them as autumn approaches. As it takes in again the chlorophylls, it produces some wonderful interesting colours, but they all do a good job in autumn. All the Katinuses, as far as I'm aware, do well. There's a green one called Grace. That is a really nice one. And then you can get the ordinary Katinus Cogagria, which is just a green colour, and that produces the most vibrant oranges you'll ever see. So that one's worth searching out and getting hold of as well. And it grows pretty much like this. All Katinuses are commonly called smoke bushes because once they seed, they look like the old plants on fire. basically. So, but to get that, you have to prune them correctly. Now, I've not pruned this one correctly at the moment because I've been cutting it back in, trying to get it tamed up a bit. So I will cut it back again next year. I will cut these long lengths by half again in spring. Again, I will miss out on the flowering, but I don't mind. It's for the greater good eventually that I'm doing it. So there's another one next to it. It's a bit of a shame that this one was planted here because this is a Berberis, and it's Berberis purpureum, I think it is. And it's a shame really because it's another purple next to it, and it's taller growing. It responds well to being clipped back, as does the Cotinus, but it's too close to this one, and the designer in me wants these two plants separated. I really don't like them that close together because they're not spoiling each other, but I've been torn between these two because one really needs to go in favour of the other. They both look okay together at the moment, so I'm going to persevere with them and see what happens over time. We'll just leave them alone. But again, these have stunning autumn colours once autumn kicks in, and they're starting that now. See if we can get closer and see if it'll focus in on that. As you know, nothing ever focuses on this when I want it to. Nope, and it's not going to do it today. Right, okay. Right, shrubs. Now this one, you're all going to hate me for this one. There we go, Buddleia. Now this one I transplanted, I took cuttings off this one years ago in a previous house that I rented at the time. And I believe it to be Lock Hinch, simply because of that nice furry look on the leaves and the nice purpley flower that it has, and it's starting to flower again. Oh, it's got a scent as well. Now, I know it's late for it to be flowering, it's October, but these things do flower in October if we get the weather right, as we know we've all been getting. But don't dismiss Buddleias. I know people class them as weeds, but please don't dismiss them because there's some lovely smaller varieties nowadays that would suit the smaller garden, but even one of the big ones suits smaller gardens. They're fantastic. Don't ever dismiss them. I've got them up on my driveway side where nothing grows except these. And they've got something great to offer. And don't forget, the Buddleias, they're called the butterfly bush. This one will make it up to about 6.5, 7 foot eventually. Previous ones did just that. And they're just absolutely full of flowers once they get going, and the scent is beautiful. I've been trimming this one or cutting it to, to thicken it up really, because I want it more of a rounded shrub than I want it tall. So I've just been working on that, and it's looking good now. And as you can see, by cutting back at the right place, you get this lovely splaying out of the two. So it does that, it dissects, and that will, if you cut them two ends off on the new growth, they would do exactly the same. And eventually you get this lovely shrubby plant, and they're great. Buddleias are fantastic, so please don't knock them. Give them a go. Revisit them if you've had them before and got rid of them. Just try them out. Don't be a snob about it, is what I'm really trying to say. Right, Hydrangea quikifolia. Here's another one. Now, this one is called Burgundy. Look at that. That's beautiful. Look at that burgundy colour on this leaf. It is stunning. It's a small one at the moment. It's only been in this year, I think I bought this. Actually, I bought it in the winter of this year. So January, February time I bought that one. But it's called Burgundy. It's a quikifolia, so it's an oak-leafed hydrangea. And it has this wonderful burgundy colour that comes in more towards autumn than any other time. Okay, so just behind that is Viburnum, and this one will be Bodden Tense. Now, it's likely to be dawn. It's a deciduous one, and it drops leaves, and a lot of people struggle with this one because it gets big, and a lot of people don't know what to do with it. Easiest advice I can give you is to actually select out the big ones, so these big sections here. If you want to rejuvenate it, you simply remove a third of those mature sections, and then what it would do, it would thank you by producing little sections like that. So this is just what I've done here, and it's produced those thinner sticks. They will grow tall, so you need to be mindful of that. They will grow tall and through it, which this one has, as you can see, they grow tall, and you need to clip that back in again. Now, if you don't clip it at the right time of the year, again, you'll lose the flowers, but it has a lovely scent in winter time. It actually starts in late autumn, this one, flowering, and it'll carry on depending on your garden, right through winter, and the scent is amazing. But why am I telling you lot? Because half of you won't go out in your garden in winter. A lot of people don't. You'll be surprised how many people don't go through the garden in winter to smell these things, and you should. So this is Fascia japonica, classed as a little bit more on the tender side, but you'll be surprised how hardy this one actually is. It's fine. Just try it. If you can give it a more protected area, as I have here, I've got this one near the shack next to it, so it gives it plenty of protection, and it does flower. In actual fact, is that a flower? It is. It's trying to produce its flower. Unfortunately, that's a little bit late. I don't think that's going to come to much. We're just a bit too late in back end of the year, but that's fine. I'm not bothered. It's got smaller leaves at the minute, and them leaves get bigger than that. It is an evergreen, but what happens in winter if it struggles is it will sacrifice its leaves, and they'll drop off or die away. And then what you do is you can either clip it back in a little bit, or you can just leave it alone and it'll re-leaf again, and it will be fantastic, and it's great for that jungly look. Okay, this is Mr. Spiky. This plant is so spiky, it's a nightmare for me a lot of the times. This one's Mahonia. Now, there's a couple of real popular ones, Midwinter Sun and Charity. Don't know what this is, it was already here, but it's really, really nice. It has a lovely scent to it when it goes. You can see at the moment it's producing lovely flowers. Well, they're not out yet, but they will be yellow. I'm looking around, see if I can find one that's already out. No, there isn't. One of the things I like to do with this plant is I like to give it this look, like the Corylus avellana that I pruned up. I like to remove all the lower limbs, all the lower sort of growth like that. And the downside to it is it continues to bloody grow the things like that one there, but they're so easy, they're so spiky. Oh, shit. Yeah, they're so spiky, so you can simply remove them like that, and they have this lovely bark in there. Can you see that colour? Look at that. Isn't that interesting? And when you clip the ends off these things, they have that orangey look about them, except more orange. So I've just pulled that off, dead easy to do. Wear gloves, because they are very, very spiky indeed. And in spring, early spring, if these are still flowering for you, you will have pollinators all over this. They absolutely love it. So early bees or late bees or bees that, you know, in the times we're in at the moment, we're getting warmer and warmer winters. So, you know, these pollinators are going to be coming out. So if you want one for early pollinators, go for Mahonia. As I say, Midwinter Sun or Charity are two good ones. There are other types, a little bit more tender, but still worth seeking out. Okay, what else we got here? This one here. Now this is possibly my favourite Acer, and look at that colour. Is that not amazing? There you go, look at them colours. It's got some yellows, reds, burgundies, it's got the lot. Oh, look, some seeds here, which I'm going to collect, and I'm going to try and grow them. In fact, I'm a bit late because there's not many left on it, but we should grab the ones that are there, and we're going to try and grow them. So, the colour, look at that. Is that not amazing? That is just absolutely beautiful. The colour's amazing. I keep saying it, amazing. It is amazing. Look at it. That stands out a mile, and I love that one. So that one's called Acer Akinator Folium. So the leaves do look like aconite leaves, as you can see from that. But they're stunning. Worth having, worth seeking out. Right, Spirea. I don't know if this is a Spirea, but I think it is, because it produces the white Spirea flower. Ah, actual fact, it's got one or two now on it. Bit early, but anyway, there you go. Maybe early, or is that late? Who knows? But it produces them off these pendulous branches. I'm not keen on this. It's been here since day one, since I got here, and I really am not keen on it. And to be honest, I think I'm going to sacrifice it this year, and I'm going to take it out. I hear gasps from you all at that point, but it's got to go. It's not doing it for me. It doesn't look good. It's taking up a valuable space where it is, where I could find a much more interesting shrub to put in there. Spireas are fantastic. They're good garden shrubs, but unfortunately this isn't doing it for me, so it's got to go. So we'll be saying bye to that one. Ah, well, we're here. Look at this. Said this might happen this year. Lamprophysis hieronymi. It's a grass. It's starting to flower again. It'll not make it. It will continue to flower. through the year, but it's not going to make it. In fact, there's a few on it. I thought there would be. It's a funny one, this one. Now, this here, these are cracking shrubs that not a lot of people go for, but they're from Australia, and they're absolutely stunning. Now, one thing you've got to remember with this type of shrub is it's a little bit tender, a little bit more tender, but don't let that worry you. So yeah, an Australian shrub called Pittosporum, and this particular variety is called Garnetia, and I know this one to be quite hardy. Go back up to it. I know it to be quite hardy, and one of its giveaways, though it's Garnetia, is that little red edge that you see there. So as it gets cooler, it tends to show you that. Sorry about that, caught the wire. Anyway, so yeah, so that's an evergreen. If it suffers the cold, it will drop its leaves, but generally it comes back and it's lovely, and flower ranges love this one because it's dark stems. So the new stems as they come on will be black, and the flower ranges love it. So it's great. So I'm just going to walk you down quickly to another Pittosporum, and I'm trying to think of its name. I can't remember its name, but I know this one to not be very hardy. And so I've got it in a bucket at the moment, and I'm going to keep it in this bucket because I really don't trust that one as being hardy. I've had several in the past, and one winter I lost every one of them due to a bad snow year that we had. But anyway, it's great. So the other things that I would recommend for you to get as a good gardener shrubs are these. Pinus. There's Pinus mugo. Pinus mugo can make 15 foot if you don't watch it, but you can trim them back in lovely and keep them looking fairly small and squat, almost like a bonsai in the garden, and they're definitely worth doing. And I love them. I've got several different types of that one, that Pinus. Now, going back to the books of sempervirens, there we go, look. So I've got some here. I bought these quite large, treated myself to these, but they're already in the shape I want them. So they're really good, and they're a really, really good shrub to put in to your garden because you can do all sorts of shaping with them. So there are, as I said, a lot more shrubs good for the garden. While we're passing it, this Perottia. This is the Persian ironweed, and again, it's a stunning autumn colour. And that one's a fastigiate type. I'm trying to remember which one it is, but it's a fastigiate type, and it's doing really, really well. And that's a Perottia. So the other ones that I would recommend you to get is something called Hydrangea. Now, I've got Hydrangea in this garden. I've got two, but they're not doing very well for me. So I can't recommend them too much because on chalk, because they're not doing very well for me on chalk. Even though they don't like heavy chalk, they do tend to respond here because I've got a lot of sections that is good ground and it should be okay, but they don't like it. But if you can get them for your own garden, they are cracking little trees. Shrubs rather. So that's an Hydrangea. That's not an Hydrangea. What I'm showing you here is Corylus avellana. This one's contorta, and it can be clipped absolutely down to nothing and it will become a shrub. I like it to have this look. This is a mature specimen. That's how I like to see them, and that's fantastic. Now, talking of shrubs, this is Cornus, and it's China Girl. So it's one of the Japanese ones, and it's looking a bit sorry for itself. That's down to the summer we've had. It's fine. It's going to come back well. It's not going to affect it. But these make, I'd say, large shrubs, small trees, but can be clipped in heavily. This one's going to make, I'm going to allow it to get to about 8 foot, 9 foot maybe before we trim it in. And then to end this video, we'll go to this one. This is my favourite elder at the moment. And this one's called Black Tower. This is a shrub that's only been in this garden for 2.5 years, and it's already up to 7, 8 foot. It's fantastic. It retains tower-like, as its name suggests, and it's just fantastic. I love it. It's got a lot of berries on it, elderberries, which you can make into various potions, I guess. I don't bother. I leave them for the birds. Downside to leaving them for the birds, if you've got a car and birds doing what they do, you'll have purple marks all over your car. That's what they do. But it's cracking. Now, it's got some green sections in there, so it's starting to remove its chlorophyll, but pretty much stays this colour all year. this colour here. It is superb. A superb plant, a superb shrub, and one of my favourites. So that was called Black Tower. Okay, so there you go. There's a little talk on some of my favourite shrubs and some of the shrubs that I have up here at Grassy Bottom. Don't forget, when you plant them, give them a generous hole, dig in some good compost if you can on a yearly basis, mulch around them like I've done here with Plant Grow. That's the mulch I use, and it's fantastic. And it does them the world of good. It does all plants the world of good to mulch them. But this one in particular is another Viburnum Davidii. For some reason, this one's never had Viburnum beetle attack it. Don't know why. It's not far from the other three that suffered it. But this one's doing all right. So remember, feed them well, mulch them, plant them well. When you plant them, heavily water any plant anyway, but particularly shrubs. And as I said earlier, the great David Stevens, who's a designer, said they are the backbone of any garden, all shrubs and trees. And he's right, they are. They're beautiful. I've a while to go yet before mine start showing properly. It would appear I never have any, but I have. I've got several shrubs and trees in this garden that are not quite there yet, but there will be soon. Okay, so I'll talk to you later. Ta-da.